right page. Hello?
It's always
I didn't check if we're on the right page that we're going live on. Let's check that.
We'll find out.
Anybody out there?
Good.
Okay, good. Yes, we're on the right page.
Oh, that's a relief.
Yay. Okay. No, again. Every time when I try and get the comments up on my phone, because for some reason we can't see the comments on here, it's still doing it. Be quiet. Okay. I think we're good to go.
Difficulty.
Goodness gracious. Hi. Okay, we wanted to talk a little bit about phonics and about our wordplay curriculum that we slaved over for the last 13 months for first and second grade. And we thought it would be helpful because a lot of people have had questions about this if we just sort of walked you through what a week looks like. And we picked a random week. This is week 24 in second grade. We're just going to walk you through really quick like what a week of our phonics and spelling curriculum looks like. We're going to show you everything that we do, but if you were interested in just parts of this, you can always just take part of it, like just the chunk spelling or just the word sorting, and incorporate that
separately.
Yeah, and incorporate it into your class the way that works for you. You can always pick and choose how you want to do things. So we're going to show you a little bit. The first part of the week, the very first day, we're going to start on Monday. You're going to make your spelling list. Now, if you're familiar with chunk spelling, then you have seen this before because we've blogged about this for many years. But we're going to show you how you do it.
We didn't have lesson plans before.
No, we didn't have lesson plans, or we have a whole bunch of more resources with it now. So we're going to show you what the first day of chunk spelling would look like. So in second grade especially, you're likely going to have your kids doing this independently at first. So you're going to hand out your soundboard to your class, and each of your students is going to have a small little word card that's the chunk of the week. So for this week, it's oon, I think.
Yeah,
O-O-N. So they'd have a little chunk card that says oon, and they're going to go through and say, lay it over here and go, boon. Okay, does that sound like a word that I know? And if it does, they're going to write it down in their notebook. And they're going to go through all of the letters, first the beginning consonants, and then they're going to go through the beginning blends and the digraphs and just see how many words they can come up with on their own, and they'll write it down in their notebook. And actually, we're going to go here and show you in first grade, if you don't feel like your class can handle doing that activity on their own, it's okay, cut on the leg there, then you could do this together as a whole class. So we actually just recently switched this around, so now the digraph or the onset is first and the picture's next, so that when you lay the chunk on, you go ahead and cover that picture, so then the picture's not visible after you make the word. But we made these cards.
This is not the word.
Yeah, you don't want thumb, but it says that, and they're confused. So actually, that's different on the file. We just hadn't printed out new ones on this pocket chart. But so that would be the same idea, where you'd have up here your list of onsets, your beginning consonants, your beginning digraphs, and then you're going to have these chunks. You're going to have, a kid come up and ask it. You'll ask the kids, like, if they know a word that has at in it. I'm still getting sound off of this. Sorry. And they'll come up with their little chunk card, and they'll lay it up there and go, oh, okay, I made the word sat. So then instead of doing it on individually first, you're just doing the chart part of it together. When we do this in second grade, we just write it on chart paper.
Although this might be a good way to introduce it in second, so that they're used to... Sorry, you can't see me.
Yeah.
So that they're used to the procedure.
Right. So anyway, you're going through and you're just building all the possible words with each chunk. With the chunk that week. All the possible words you could possibly make. There's more than this. These are just a few. And then in second grade, you're going to start talking about, let's look this back. You're going to start talking about the idea of big words. So let me go back to the lesson plan. So this, hold on, you can't see it. There we go.
There.
This is basically what our pocket or our chart paper looks like when we've made our chart. So we've made all the possible words with a single consonant first, then we've got blends and digraphs in the middle, and then we're going to start coming up with as many big words as we can that have oon in them. So you're teaching them how to understand a little chunk makes up part of a bigger word, and so they can start thinking of things like lagoon and balloon and moonlit and things that make their words there.
And this helps them later on if they come to these big words to learn how to decode the parts that you know.
Look for those chunks that they know. So then, as you're doing that, you might come across some words here that your kids don't know. So we've provided each week 4 different vocabulary cards that you can use, so that if a kid says, well, I think boon is a word, but I don't know if I really know what it means, you can take that moment to do a little bit of vocabulary instruction. So we have for you the kid-friendly definition, and then an example of the word in a sentence, and a picture to help support that idea. So for oon, we have boon, croon, went too far, goon, and noon would be, isn't that an interesting picture? And I'll scroll through some of these other words to kind of show you some of the other words for different weeks. So every week there's 4 words that the kids might not know that we've got vocabulary support for you there. So then after you've made your whole class chart, then you can run this however you want to. But the way that we do it is we have the class pick, so we send home spelling homework. So let me switch over to the full-size camera. Hold on. To show you an example of the spelling homework we have. So this is not the oon week. It's at. But so it's a little menu of activities, and we say just choose any 2. Like, there's no reason that they need to be doing more. And you don't want this to be tedious. Yeah. So
or the parents to hate you.
Yes. Yes. So there's just 2 to pick from, and inside over here is where they would write their, I'm just gonna cover my face up, 10 words.
Do you want me to hold it?
Yes. Where they would write their 10 words, and then activities they'll do during the week with the 10 words. So one of the things that's every week is they can do look, say, cover, write. So they look at the word, they say it, they cover it up, and then they write it over here. And then every week there's a shape write where they just write the words around the shape. And then on the back we have a parent tip. So every 4th week, I think, it has just the directions for the parent, but other weeks it has an explanation of what chunk spelling is, or why,
how to support your kids
and why it's important to do these things. And then we have also some hands-on activities, so that if they don't want to do a pen and paper activity, they can do something else. And then, yeah, I think that's it for this. Let's go back to the lesson plan. And you start talking about poetry.
So one of the other things we do on the first day of the week is to introduce the week's poem. So each week has a poem that's written specifically with that week's chunks. So you can do some word study with it. You can work on fluency practice. Each day there's a very brief activity you can do with it. Do you want to show them the poem?
Let's find. Nope, that's the game. Where's the poem?
There we go. So here's the poem.
Hold on, wait, it's not on the screen. I always forget we got to switch back and forth.
There we go.
Here we go.
So there's the poem for the week. You can see it has the chunk at the top, and then we tried to work in that chunk as many different ways as we can without it being
clunky,
ridiculous.
You know, we wanted it to be interesting to read.
So it's an actual poem, not just the man in the can has a plan for the van or something.
Right.
So that there's actual content to discuss. And then each week or each day work a little deeper into the meaning of the poem. But the first day you're just introducing it and doing a choral read of it.
Right. And then let me switch back over to the lesson. Then you would introduce your word sorts. So for example, this week, we give you 3 levels of word sorts to work through. So, for example, we've got, here's what your A level, your below level students are going to be sorting this week. So they're still doing that oo sound that you hear in oon, but they're doing it with just short U and long U. Your on level kids are doing those 2 different sounds of oo, the moon and good, the 2 different sounds of oo. And this sore thumb graphic is the things that don't follow rules. So,
like could.
Yes.
Or I'm trying to think should. I'm trying to see if there's another one up there.
There's 3.
Yeah, would.
And
could,
then,
should, would.
Yes. And then the above level kids, they're starting to get into more of that syllables and affixes kind of thing. So theirs doesn't necessarily tie in as much, though we did try to get some of those words like raccoon and moody and shampoo into the lesson to tie it in a little for them too. But they're working
so they're not working on the spelling pattern so much as here they're working at the syllable pattern.
Right.
But we tried to work in those words with the same chunk.
Right. And let me try going over here to video again to show you. So we have also a teacher lesson plan that's a little bit bigger cards, a teacher sort, so that when you're doing your lesson plans, you have big cards to work from. And we also included a few words in your teacher sort that are not included in the student sort. So you can kind of do an informal assessment of if they're understanding the project or the topic with some new words. And they're a little bigger, so it's easier to work with your group. And then we also have, somewhere I have a lesson plan. Here we go. Where we have, for all 3 levels, it's all on one page, we have an explanation of what you're doing for lesson 1, what the topic is, that kind of thing. Actually, this is the picture of a first grade lesson plan, though, so it looks a little bit different. And then on day 2, these day 2 and day 3 lessons are completely optional. You can do them if you want, but you don't have to. But,
you do both or one or...
Yes, but lesson 1's kind of important because you're introducing the sort. That would be a good thing to do. If you want to do lesson 3, it has a quick assessment that you can do in there too. I'm kind of thinking, well, look now. Okay, maybe it's working. On my phone, it looks like the live is not running anymore. Oh. It looks like it ended. So we'll see if we're even talking to anyone right now. The other thing we have is we have... some different types of word sorting. So every day you can pick a different one and put the direction up. So during word sort time, sorry, there we go. they can do whatever today's sort is. So we have, I don't remember how many, maybe like 7 different types of sorts that they can do during the week.
And that walks you through what your students need to know to be able to do that sort.
Right. So let's zip back to the lesson if I can find it. Okay. So day 1 is basically you make hold on, I'm going to switch back. There we go. Day 1, you make your chart. You introduce the poem, you introduce the weekly word sort. Okay. Day 2, we start doing the whole group lessons. Yeah, yes. Lessons. And you go ahead. So you wrote them.
These are very minimal prep. You might need some whiteboards or some scratch paper. And they sometimes relate to the chunk. Sometimes they relate to another phonics activity. In 2nd grade, there's you could spend several weeks on contractions. Yeah. So, and it's just, we walk you through exactly what to do. And you don't need anything special to do these lessons.
So you can just do them on the fly without having done a lot of prep. So then day 2 with your poem, what are we doing here?
You're looking for the words in the poem that have that chunk. And then if you want to discuss some of the sight words in the poem, we have a list for you. And also there's a worksheet.
So they can mark that on their own poem. Where is it? They can mark it on their own poem, and we have a black and white version, or you could be marking it on a big copy for the class. We have pocket chart version here. Let me scroll through that. Or you might have just this, I went too far. You might just have this half sheet. If you want to put that like in a smaller poetry notebook, you want to tape that inside just a spiral bound notebook, something like that. And which worksheet were you talking about?
The sight words.
Oh, if you want to do the sight words, that's at the very end. The 5 sight words, words that are in the poem, we have a little activity page that you can use this whenever during the week that you want to. Okay, and then if you wanted to, you could do your day 2 lesson plan for word sorting there if you want to. So now day 3, we're introducing the idea of our chunk cheers, which is a daily decoding routine that doesn't take very much time, but really helps them build those decoding skills. So, for example, you'd have a deck of chunks, and every week we'd tell you which chunks you add to your deck. And then every day you randomly pick 3 to 5 of these chunks, and you do this fun, chunk cheer with it. Now, you can do anything you want with this. You can not do the cheers if it makes your class too crazy, or you can not do the one we suggest, but we wanted to make this really super easy for you, so we tell you exactly one that you can do. So, for example, for this one... Do they do the cheer first and then okay? So for this one we have it's ice cream scoop. So first for each letter of the chunk, maybe you can show I'm holding.
So you hold your ice cream, and for each letter you go like A, T, and then as you're saying the chunk 3 times, you're gonna
pretend to lick it. So you're like at. Okay. So every day is a different one. You'll see the same ones maybe 2 or 3 times throughout the whole year.
And
it's a lot of different ones.
Like, I'm thinking of a word with 1 consonant that is a pet you might have, and so they're like, it'd be cat, or trying to come up with a word that uses that chunk.
Yeah.
And then, so I'm holding up one finger because there's one letter at the beginning. If you're doing something like flat, you would hold up the 2.
And if you're doing something like chat, you would do 2 fingers crossed to show that it's 2 letters, but it makes 1 sound. So that's how you do this little routine.
And then you put that chunk down, get a new chunk, do the ice cream again with it. Mm-hmm. And that would take a minute to do 3 to 5 of these. Right. And you can do as many or as little as you have time for in a day. And it's a very short routine that has a big impact for your students. So doing that every day is going to go a long way. So we've got another lesson. Today we're talking about the long U CVCE rule and doing some activities with that. And then we're getting into talking about OO, that sound that they're doing in the chunk this week. And we use these whole class lessons because some of your kids, like if you have a low-level kids, they can't handle this on their own, but they still need to be introduced to this idea.
Right. If it's in the, if it's expected content for 2nd grade, you can't not teach it to your low kids because that's not quite where they're at. So this is an accessible way to introduce them to the ideas, but they're not responsible for doing a word sort at this level. That would be too advanced for them. And then for the poem that day, we're working on fluency.
So you have, your poem, and then you model fluently reading it for your class, and then you discuss some deeper level comprehension because this is the 3rd time they've seen it. So you're working on understanding what's happening in the poem.
So in this example, let me get back to the poem. You're talking about having them learn how to not pause until they hit the punctuation.
Yeah, so there's after you discuss the comprehension, there's a fluency practice. And in this case, because there's line breaks that don't end in punctuation, you want them to keep going until they hit the punctuation. And this one is later in the year, so it's quite a bit challenging because there's actually 3 lines in that. If you look, the fur-masked raccoon searches for food by the light of the moon. So they need to go that long stretch before they pause at the period, which is important because every time you have your 2nd graders reading fluency, they'll pause at the end of the line. So this is to help them develop that skill of wait to the punctuation.
Right. And then, what day are they writing their own poem?
That's day 4.
Okay. So then, again, you could do either lesson 2 or lesson 3 with your words, or if you want to today, anytime during the week. So now on day 4, we're going to do that same decoding routine, except for this time we're doing it like a marching band. So again, you'd pull out a random chunk, and we'd say, okay, everyone choose an imaginary instrument to play, and you're going to march in place while the chunk is spelled. So we're going to spell these 2 letters and go like
A-T.
Like with your drums or your cymbals, A-T. And then when we want to say the chunk, we're going to play the instrument while we say it. So trumpet, whatever. Like at. So it's like a little marching band. That's maybe not our best example of these cheers. Some of them are a little more simple than that. Again, then we're going to do, this time instead of a lesson, we're going to play a game. And so every week we have a custom designed game for your class to do. And we've given you this teacher's guide. It tells you exactly what materials you'll need, how many kids can play on each board, what the goal of the game is, and also an answer key. And then we've got kid-friendly directions that show them what they need to do when it's time to play. Now, maybe you're going to play this whole class first really quickly as an example so they know what they're doing before they go to play. But we have this for when they're ready to play this independently.
If you want to put it in the center.
Yeah, maybe later you're going to put it in a center. So then here we've got this cute little woodland friends, and we've got one path that says moon and one path that says woods. So then we've got all these little cards. They're going to draw a card and they get the word look. Each one of them has their own board with a marker on each one of those paths. So it's every kid has their own board, but they're trying to be the first to get both of their little woodland friends over here to the woodland tea party. So that one, what did I say that word? Look. Okay, so then you're going to move the
marker along the woods path.
Yes.
It gets to move 1 space.
It gets to move 1 space. So then the next kid's turn to draw. You go around until the first person gets both of their markers all the way over there to the party. And also one little thing that we do with our games is we include a custom pattern like this. So if you want to, you can print this out on the back of the cards just to make it look a little nice. It's just a little extra something, and you don't need to do it if you want to save your color ink. Absolutely, more power to you. And then you're going to go back together with your class, and you're going to talk about that game, and you're going to talk about how it went. So,
we always start with that, like deal with the issues. So
the team issues.
Yes. And then you do a little review practice of that pattern.
So for this one, there's only 2 different ones. So I'm going to write moon on the board, and I'm going to write woods on the board, and a 1 under moon and a 2 under woods. And then we're going to say, I just found a typo in this. Good thing we're going back over these right now. So I'm going to say word. If it has the O-O sound like moon, show me 1 finger. If it has the O-O sound like woods, show me 2 fingers. So then you're going to say crook, and they're going to say, okay, crook, wood. Okay, that's like woods, and they'll hold up their 2 fingers. And that's just sort of a quick assessment to see if they're understanding what they're doing there. And then we're going to do a little bit with poetry.
So this is more of it. So there's a brief, you can partner your students up and have them practice reading that poem with each other as buddies. And then there's an optional after reading activity if you want to have your kids write their own poem.
Sorry, it scrolls so fast all of a sudden, so I zoomed right past it. Where is it? Here we go.
So there's a graphic organizer, because that just makes things go so much more smoothly. So the kids, as a class, or kids can have their own individual one depending on how you want to run it. Yeah. So they fill in ideas with things you could see at night, and then as you could do this as a whole class and do 1 poem together. The kids could have their own. You could have them work in buddies. Really, it's however you want to do this. And they fill in the blanks with ideas from the graphic organizer. And we try to use some of those, words from the word family. So this has moon, raccoons,
right?
And they can illustrate it. And you could collect these and put them in a class book if you want.
Yeah, if you want to do a class book, we give you a cover. If you want to each week have a class book of their moon view poems, and next week will be a different topic. And then some of the other things we have for poetry that are not written into the lessons are we always had a poem sequencing center in our daily 5 center activities.
Kids loved it.
They love it. So we always have that available. We have the kid-friendly directions. You'd cut out the poem on the side, put it on the front of one of those little envelopes. On the back, you've got the directions. Then you put in the pieces of the poem inside. We also have a cut and glue version of this if you want to have the kids
do it in a notebook or as an extra practice.
Mm-hmm. And then we also have these task cards.
So if you wanted to put these out in a center, you could every week have a set of task cards that go exactly with the poem. The 1st grade ones, because the kids are not always the best readers, the task cards are the same every week. And 2nd grade, the activities change.
They change, and it's really based on, finding all the un words in the poem, 3 words you think are important to the poem.
So some of them deal with phonics and grammar. Some of the questions deal with fluency. Some of the questions deal with your response to the poem. Some of them, I think if you scroll down to the next page, you can see card 11 is always some kind of personal connection or an extension. You can have them practice their handwriting. However, if you wanted to put out a selection so they could choose, or if you wanted to assign certain cards, you can.
Right. And then on day 5, you're just wrapping everything up. If you want to do a spelling test, that's the day we would do it. If you do chunk spelling, we like to do buddy spelling tests. So once you've introduced chunk spelling in there, they understand how to do it, and we have a whole teacher guide that teaches you exactly how to introduce that. Then you would pair them up in buddies, and they'd give each other their individualized spelling test. But if you're just having your class do all the same words, you just do a traditional spelling test, or you can do no spelling test if you don't want to. We're going to wrap up the poem. We have a couple really quick...
We kind of leave this day in as a catch-up day because you're always interrupted.
Right. So either if you don't have time to get to it Friday, then you're not missing anything. Or if there's something you missed during the week you wanted to get to, you can get to it here. Same with the sorting. On the very last day, if you haven't done day 3 and you want to do that, this is a good time to do it. And there's a little quick assessment involved in there. So let me go back in. So... basically, that was just a quick walkthrough of what a week of wordplay looks like. So if you have any questions, leave them here and we'll come back and answer them. And of course, I forgot to put the link in of where to go to find this, so I will put that there. And also, you can download a free week and give it a try and see if it works for you. So if you have any questions, let us know. And we're going to be back soon talking about back to school stuff, more back to school stuff. And also, if you're watching this live or later today on the August 2nd, it is the Teachers Pay Teachers sale still. So everything, including our full year curriculums, are on sale for 20% and an additional 5% off with the code BTS 2017. So don't forget that. So let us know if you have any questions, and we will be back later.
Thank you so much.
Bye.